going on?
Hello.
Welcome to the Bold Women Podcast.
We are excited to have you here.
It's our first episode of 2025.
Woo!
We made it.
We made it.
We made it. And, yeah. So, my name is Meryl, and I am here with my friend Maria.
Hello.
Do you like the new tunes?
We do.
We do. Big fan.
Big fan.
Jazzy.
You'll have to pay attention afterwards, too, because there's another little treat.
The outro music is new, too.
We're shimmying right now.
We are
Byron
shimmying
is
as we
joining.
Love it.
I do, too. Here for it.
Here for it.
We wanted you guys to just know us a little better.
Yeah, we just jazz things up a little, you know? It's 2025. We're all alive. If you're listening to this.
You still are, too.
Woo! And you know what that means? God has a purpose for you.
Yep.
And he is not done with you.
Yup.
So,
You have a pulse.
you got purpose.
You got purpose.
As they say.
Part of your purpose could be going on to our social medias.
Oh!
Following us.
Got him.
Got him. Follow us on social media. That's all I really got to say about it.
I don't want that song to ever end. It's just
I
so
know, it's
fun.
so good.
Jazzy. What? It's
So
not really
good.
jazzy. It's more like zippy.
Yeah, kind of
Got
not
some-
swaggy.
Got some zip and zag in it.
Yeah, a little
Some
twists and
salt.
turns.
Some salt, little spice. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
Weird.
Oh, are you wanting to answer it?
I was starting and then I realized, nope, Meryl's bringing it in. Let me not. So I stopped myself.
We're off to a great
I
start.
couldn't tell if you were asking me that.
Well, I was
So then I was-
asking our dear listeners,
So I started and then I was like,
what do we
ooh.
want to talk about? Well, we're going to go with something that is, you know, pretty typical for the beginning of the year. Managing change. So, let's get into it.
Ooh.
And, you know, at first, I kind of thought, well, okay, for our first episode of the beginning of the year, oh, that's cliche.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like you guys are all in the middle of, you've probably just started, like your New Year's resolutions that you should have started in like November so that by now it's a habit, like a good habit.
Got him, part 2.
Let's be honest.
I don't know why that's so funny.
Really, if you're going to start a habit, there's like some science behind it. I don't know the actual numbers, but I know that for me, for example, I randomly decided to run a 5K at Thanksgiving. I was one of those
I love
for
that,
a holiday. But I did that. But by that, I had only started working out for like maybe a week or so before I went home and was like going on this run or whatever. And then I did it. And then it was like, but by the time the new year came around, I was already well into my new form of discipline of just exercising and moving my body regularly. And yeah, that has stuck with me. My, how things have changed now. But, you know, sometimes it's a struggle for me to get there twice in a week.
Oh, same.
And it's my ultimate goal. I mean, I was there like 5-6 days a week, and then I just sort of like burned myself out just doing that.
Well, life has changed a little bit for
Yeah,
you too.
life's changed. Lots has gone on since
Yeah.
since we last talked, everybody. A lot has happened. So, but we'll catch up on that.
We'll
at
catch
some
up.
point.
We have season catch-ups to catch up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
We'll
Well,
talk
and
about
I
that
think-
as season catch up for sure.
I think in managing change too, it's not like how you were saying, like it kind of feels like like beginning of the year.
But I think
But-
also this is great because
Well,
a lot is happening at this time.
right. And I think too, there's this aspect of sometimes I think as well, and I know this is me, and I feel like I'm learning so like I feel like the past, what you guys have been on a journey with us the past few years, especially if you've been listening for a while, of like deeply rooted things that you didn't know were things that needed to be uprooted kind of thing. And I think one thing that I've been thinking about the past few weeks before we recorded this about how when life changes, I think sometimes as believers, we can start to feel a little bit like that period of like out of control, or what is God doing, and how sometimes we don't like change from the aspect of sometimes we can even think of like, is something happening? Is this an attack? Is this not attack? How am I going to handle this change? What does God do? Like trying to just put it all into pieces. So sometimes I think we take change as believers not as well as people who aren't believers, where they're just kind of like, it is what it is. Let's go with it. We're believers, we try to put so much onto it that might not necessarily even have anything to do with it. And then we get in this like tight kind of combobulation of things, but just realizing life has patterns and rhythms, and it should be changing. Like life is never going to consistently look the same. I was reading in a Devo this morning actually where it talked about like literally the only thing consistent is Jesus himself.
Yeah.
So everything else in life will change at some point. People will change, relationships will change, where you live will change, where you go to church could change, like all these things. And it doesn't mean that it's like it's bad, but the only thing that is guaranteed to not change is Jesus Christ himself and his character and who he is. Period.
All right, that's going to wrap up the episode. We'll talk to you later.
I've heard it said that the only consistent thing is the inconsistencies.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, guys, if for those who are new to this podcast,
just drops in with
Byron. That's Byron Dice, ladies and gentlemen. That's our producer. He's great.
He has his own podcast too.
You guys should listen to it.
It's all about
getting to the bottom of that.
Getting to the bottom of things, and it's called Let's Get to the Bottom of That. And
you should listen.
Tinfoil hat likely required for that.
Yeah. Likely and well fitted.
Yeah. So let's get to chatting some more about this.
So
how we manage change.
Yeah. So why does change feel so overwhelming? Nothing will stir up a feeling like lack of control or wondering what will happen. How will relationships change through it? And the list goes on. Basically, change makes us incredibly uncomfortable. Some love change when it's caused by them, but as a whole, human nature hates change.
But as a whole, human nature hates change.
Yeah.
There should have been another comma in there. Who wrote that? Couldn't have been me.
Probably me, actually, because I remember. I'm gonna be real honest, because I remember. What makes me think of that is the second part where it says some love change when it's caused by them. Because I've always said that. I'm like, I love change when I do it. I hate change when it's done for me.
Oh, yep, that's good.
So it's like I change things all the time. I literally just rearranged my bedroom yesterday, and I rearranged my plants, and I love it. Like.
Well, also think about what
many different things.
Also think about what time of year it is. It's like the holidays are finally like over. You know, we're in the thick of the winter doldrums.
Yeah,
as they say. Or if you're not familiar, yeah, doldrums.
Oh yeah, or for those
the season of the depressies.
Yeah. The bluesies.
The sad days. AKA January through March in the Midwest. We are not okay during this time of year.
Call your friends in the Midwest this time of year.
Call your Midwestern friends, especially because we don't have cool things like mountains to look at when it's snowy.
Or hike.
So it's incredibly depressing and icy.
We have parking lots to slide around.
Everything is a skating rink.
Okay, growing up as a kid, I thought I was so cool. And I actually did this with my college basketball team. I carried the tradition on. When it's really icy, we didn't have our ice skates. So we would just take grocery sacks and tie them to our feet and then go ice skating on them.
Oh, well, that's new.
So anybody who lives in the Midwest and you're looking for something to do and you don't have ice skates, homemade, you're welcome. All right.
There is a nice mountain on the backside of Lowe's on 135th when it snows good.
Really?
Yeah, you can catch some wind over there.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. I don't know if there's any children listening, but all right.
Okay. So, Hinston Time Papers, weirdly named, but the article actually does.
Hinston? It looks like Hinuston?
And
I don't know where you got this from, but
yeah, this is clearly my notes compared to Meryl's.
says weird name, but article actually sounds legit. Oh yeah, it's definitely you spelled it. You didn't even spell actually right.
ACTO. All right.
Oh my gosh, you guys pray for Maria. Pray for Maria because she has to deal with me on the regular.
Weird name, but the actual or the article. Dang it! The article actually sounds legit. It says there are 5 reasons why people dislike change. Okay. 1.
Let's go.
1, loss of familiarity. Human beings are wired to be creatures of a habit, routine, and mental maps of our environments.
Okay.
Accurate. I love habits and patterns. Any kind of change disrupts the habit. We feel threatened. Hence, loss of familiarity. Resist changes. Number 2, fear of the unknown. A change or transition means getting to embrace the unknown until it becomes familiar. We sometimes fear the unknown and are not able to accept it with open arms. Number 3, mental energy. Adjusting to change or new environments requires cognitive energy. We need to learn new skills to reestablish social dynamics. Sometimes we feel drained of the energy required to make changes happen smoothly. Number 4, emotional attachment. Change often refers to leaving a place or a person we are deeply attached to. The grief and the nostalgia attached with the emotional connection that we have with that person or the place often stops us from being content or happy about the change. And number 5, they said fear of failure. The change also comes with a sense of failing in a new environment. The fear of the unknown added to the fear of failure acts as a catalyst for resistance to change or transitions. I feel like all those are spot on.
Yeah.
But the management center, do you want me to read this part? Or do you want to read this part?
I can.
Go ahead.
Sure. All right.
Don't judge my spelling.
The management
I spelled
center
similar right. Good.
says very similar things as Maria wrote. Loss. So people fear change because of what they might be losing. And, you know, like, what am I being asked to give up? Will they have to stop focusing on the work they enjoy or stop working with people they like? Some will see change in a job title as an attack on their self-esteem. Even a change of desk can make someone very unhappy if it means losing a window or a useful wall.
Okay, so these italicized.
And it comes up with anecdotes, looks like.
Yep, that's what
which would be to anticipate how people might respond and listen to their concerns. Give them time to absorb the change, stress any positives, but be honest with them. So I assume this has to do with, like, if you're in, like, a leadership type of position.
And some kind of, like, business principles attached to these.
Okay, so then there's confusion. So people fear change if they don't understand the reason for it, and then they resist it. So change causes uncertainty and means pushing people out of their comfort zones. However much we might complain about them, it's our routines that make us feel secure. So the response to that would be people have to know why the change is necessary if you want them to engage with it positively. Make sure you can explain how it will help or why it's not okay for things to continue as they are. Anytime that I have ever had to, like, pitch for something that's going to cost the firm a good chunk of money is like, you got to do a little fear mongering, like, to convince them to spend the money, because you're like, we're not doing this right and we don't have the means to make it right. So we really need to spend the money. Otherwise, if we get caught, we're going to be in trouble. And it's not necessarily like caught like illegal, but it's like if somebody comes snooping and asking for something, we legit don't have XYZ to make that possible.
Right.
So
we need
period. We need this.
Oh, we just went through this with work too, and like we had contract writings, and it was one of those that's like, even we had to go back to the budget and different things like that. It was okay, cool, but we wrote it in our contract, so make it happen. Like you don't have an option,
right?
Like that's it.
Okay, lack of competence. So people fear change if they're worried they won't be able to do what you're asking. So they're asking if their skills are going to be sidelined or they're going to look stupid. But rather than telling you this is their concern, They make it clear they disagree with the new approach or challenge the very reason for the change. So the response to that would be to consider what knowledge, information, and skills your team will need during and following the change. So set up a plan to help each person gain the necessary competencies, spend time with everyone individually, and encourage them to identify their own developmental needs. And then there's more. Oh my gosh, this thing's long. More work. People fear change because they see it as more work, and they're probably right. Change takes time, and inevitably people have to design and test new approaches while also continuing business as usual. The resulting struggle with workloads and lack of time can make the change feel like a failure.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Was it Steve Jobs who said, if you want to find the easiest way to do something, you hire somebody incredibly lazy? Because he said they're going to figure out the easiest way to do something. And I was like, oh, I don't know how long they stay around. But he's like, if you want to find
They don't stay around for long.
But they're going to figure out the least complicated way to do something. Whatever that's with. Onward.
All right. So the response to that is change is never perfect. So recognize that there will be unexpected obstacles as the change rolls out. So ask your team to look for issues, help you problem solve so they feel part of the change. Help people prioritize their increased workload, acknowledge their hard work. If it's a very big change, break it down into phased steps. This is very simple in terms of you could apply this to like running your own household.
So many things.
Stuff's going on. Things are changing. Like a new family member is moving in for a time. Work changes for mom or dad or, something like that. You have to care for other people, that sort of thing. Like you can apply a lot of this stuff to those types of situations.
School's not in session. You're in summer. You have summer break coming up. You're still on Christmas break.
Yep. Losing control. People fear change because they lose control over their role. The larger the change, the more they're going to feel like the change is being done to them.
Ooh.
No one likes feeling powerless.
I think that's a big piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would argue that that's probably one of the biggest things is like when something changes, especially, and you were talking about it earlier, it's like if you aren't the one to initiate the change, then it's like you have no control.
Short circuit. Yep. What's happening?
Yeah. It's like, oh no, like
glitching.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
I will sometimes just freeze, and sometimes when there's like big changes like that, I'll just take like a work example or whatever. But like I will find myself just staring at my screen sometimes and just being like, Byron has the funniest look on his face. But no, that's legit what's going on in my head is I'm just sitting here going, I don't even know where to start. You know how sometimes you're like,
yeah, where do I
even begin? So you just, the next thing you know, like 3 hours has passed and you're like, what? I haven't even done anything today.
I'm still
I don't
sitting
even know
here.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
There is, I actually got this. I don't even know where I got this. And it's not a Christian book by any means. It's a business book, but it's a really, really tiny book, and it's called The Shark and the Goldfish, Positive Ways to Thrive During Waves of Change. And when I tell you, it has been one of the best books that I've read on letting go during change and using it, like, especially when change is made for you. Like I said in the beginning, I'm great with change when I make it myself. I love to cause things to change. Yeah. I don't like I love patterns, but I love my patterns. But this, like the way that he writes and he uses it as an example, like it's a story between a shark and a goldfish, but there have been principles that he has talked about in that have literally kind of like helped check the way that I think about some things. So if anybody's looking for a good, quick, easy little read, it's a very, very good one.
Yeah, so their response to that in the article was, during change, information is power. If people don't get enough information, they may think things are being kept from them. And any gaps will be filled with rumors and gossip. So share as much information as you can, as early as you can. Be honest if some decisions have not yet been made. Also, involve your team in planning the change as early as you can. Ask for their input on areas they'll be responsible for delivering to help them feel ownership of the change. And finally, remember that every member of your team is likely to respond differently to the upcoming change. And if they fear it, they will do so for different reasons. You'll need to spend more time with each of them individually than you do normally and give them time to come together to discuss the change and their concerns so that they can identify opportunities to help each other. yes, this means more work for you, but if you can support your team or your family well during change, they are much more likely to engage positively now and in the future. Unless you have people like I've dealt with, which is just like, I'm just going to ram against every little thing that you're saying the entire time. And I'm not going to be available when you want to talk one-on-one. And when we are one-on-one, I'm just going to talk about my personal problems instead and distract you from your stuff.
So what do you do in that situation, or how have you handled that?
The person doesn't work in my department anymore. So
Zing.
there's that. The problem took care of itself. But
yeah, that's tough.
But I mean, a lot of the time it was, I literally had to post a scripture to my to my computer monitor that was Romans 8. What is it? But it's basically like, as long as you're concerned, like whatever it is that you're concerned, be at peace with everybody. And I would just sit there and stare at them and be like, I'm at peace, I'm at peace, I'm at peace. And a lot of times I would just look at that scripture and I'd be like, Lord, just help me. You love this person.
Right.
I don't like them.
Right.
And they work under me and they're incredibly challenging. They are just resistant to everything. I mean, the first 5 seconds when I met this person, they showed up late, first of all, and then was all in a huff, threw their stuff down. And they're like, okay, how long do I have to sit here? Because I really have a lot of work to do. And I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be like that. All right, sweet. Sometimes there's people that you will just encounter that are like that. With family members, it's obviously you can treat that a little bit differently. You can be a little more frank with them.
Yeah.
But in like a professional setting, it was just like I had to keep reminding myself that whatever was going on with that person is their whole behavior, attitude toward me has really nothing to do with me. That person had a lot of personal stuff going on that was bothering them, and they were not a fan of change. And
that was a big change. You coming in was a big change.
Me coming in was a huge change because the person that I replaced pretty much just put a pause on everything for about 3 years before they retired. And it was like they didn't start any new initiatives. They were doing a lot of like really like manual old school practices, still using paper to file things. Like just, I mean, I have had a very long year trying to clean up and organize the department that I ended up taking over. And it's been great. And honestly, I mean, the person that I replaced, fantastic human being. And I would also, I don't blame them for any of that, because I think that if I was in that position, I'd be like, I mean, I wouldn't want to start up anything, or I would just stay the course, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that also leads to like some complacency, unintended, of course,
right,
for other people, because they get kind of stuck in this routine. Then I come in and I'm like, we're changing everything, because it's like, yay, fresh start. And that, you know, everyone knew like that they were like, change needs to happen. Like this has to get,
or it's hard and that change needs to happen. But then when it's actually there, it's like,
it was like, oh, we actually have to start doing this now.
Yeah.
And this person was just very, very resistant to all of it. And I've heard that they are much happier in their new spot, and that's great. I'm so happy for them, and great.
Good.
Yay.
Okay, so like the articles we read were like business more oriented, and like you were saying, like that was a business example. How do you think all this, because I'm like, even reading these, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so true to life, but how do you think this applies to our spiritual side? Like some of these. Or maybe
these are really practical things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really.
Can I just rephrase? I think I'm going to skip to the next one, because I think.
Different question.
Well, I think it's just, like it applies to just, that's human nature. This is how we apply it. But because I know we mentioned in the beginning that as believers too, are not, like for me, it's like when change happens, I can tend to get I've been getting better at, but that overthinking phase too. So like, how does trusting God and adjusting to change go hand in hand?
Well, how does trusting God and adjusting to change go hand in hand?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like you would at a job. Something changes. You don't have all the answers because you as the employer on a need to know basis, right?
I was just going to say,
You're
your need to
informed.
know statement is going to
Yeah.
be perfect here.
You're informed of things that are needed from you when you need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar in our walk with God.
Yeah.
He treats us very similarly. It's like, I give you enough to take your next step, and that should be enough for you, because he's not going to lead us astray. He's not going to lead us to a bad place. So it's frustrating because people like you and me want to see the entire picture.
Or at
Like,
least
I want to see at least 10 steps
Right.
ahead.
you don't have to show me 24, but 10 would be nice.
Yeah, because if something bad is coming, then, because I know that that's at the other end, that's at the back part of the question that we ask, is like, if there is something bad coming, I want to be able to see it so that I can brace myself for it.
Or avoid it.
Yeah, and in that sense, that is us essentially saying, Lord, you are not sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am sufficient, because I have been in survival mode plenty of times in my life. I
Yeah.
know how to brace for that impact. I know how to do that. And you're basically telling
I
God
know how to
just,
navigate it.
Yeah, step aside.
And I think some of that too is like, who are we to say that like, he promises in his word, like he'll never leave us or forsake us no matter where it is.
Yeah.
Like, and I think of multiple scriptures where, was it Psalm 139, where it's like, even in like the depths of the sea, his hand is still on me.
Yeah.
Or what's the one where about the being a shepherd, but like even in the deepest valley, like he leads me. And so it's like so many times we think, okay, when things are good, it's God, but we so quickly are like, where are you when
It's
things
really
don't go?
hard. And
Mhm.
it's really hard because it is something we forget very quickly.
Why do you think it's so hard to trust God in the unknown?
Well, I mean, as we were just saying, you can't see what's going on. Can't see what's around the corner.
Do you think
I'm somebody who just like needs to know everything.
Yeah.
As they say sometimes, that can delve into me being a bit of a busybody.
Yeah.
As the
Okay, one thing
as the love of my life tells me.
the
He
one
says, you're a bit of a busybody sometimes. I'm like, oh, am I? Like, well, actually, you're right, because I just need to know. I need to know as much of a full picture of something
As
as possible.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, let's diagnose Meryl for a second. Even if it's a really just benign encounter, it's like, I need to know everything about like a person that I'm going to meet.
Do you think that comes from
And I need to know everything about the situation that we're going to walk into. Like, are we doing this event? How many people are going to be there? How many females are going to be there? Am I going to be the only girl that's there? Okay. How old is everyone? What is their life story? I mean, I will go on and just ask a bunch of questions.
Do you think that stems from when you grew up always hearing like Meryl makes good decisions? And so feeling like I have to keep that up to make good decisions?
Oh, probably.
I'm just made me
Yeah.
thinking like because that could come back from
Probably that, but also so that I can maintain the facade that I am somebody with a level head and that I'm chill and like I've always got it together.
yeah.
Because I don't. But when you take any amount of time to get to know me, you know that I don't.
What?
Yeah, but yeah, it's like it's kind of just it's a control thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's like I want to know every little thing, and I will take that information and whatever scenario comes out of it, I've probably already thought of a
Right.
possible response.
And
to
that
it.
way I'm not taken off guard
Exactly.
because I hate being taken off
Yep.
guard. But then in life, how many things, more often than not, the things that cause change and cause us things are not things that we have thought about. You know, like realistically, like it's the
God's like, I have thought of infinite. There's infinite ways of this situation playing out. You have thought of a mere fraction.
that was like when my car got stolen. So at the time of this recording, my car had gotten stolen.
Yeah, in the fall.
In the fall. And it was kind of one of those moments. And it was like,
broad daylight.
But, and I felt like God kind of said, like, Maria, cause I was like, what if I would have done this better? And it was like, it had this moment. And I was like, oh, the things that happened to me, I can't plan for. Like, cause you know how I struggle with like the over planning and like, what's the next step and getting everything in order. And I was like, oh, I didn't plan on my vehicle getting stolen ever.
Right.
And so was God there present with me in it? Yeah. Did it work incredibly smooth? Yeah. I mean, just all those things. I think I was reading this morning actually, and I messaged you about it, but I was like gut punch where, I think for me, trusting God and adjusting and adjusting and change go hand in hand. I think the really ugly side of me says that sometimes I doubt that God will come through for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I can be like down to like the nitty gritty and honest. And so when change happens or things feel out of my control, there's this piece of like doubt that I have sometimes that God will be there and it'll be for my good, even though I know that's what scripture says. But I'm just saying like from the raw side of it.
Well, I think that's just, I would just say I don't think that that's unusual.
Yeah.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think that anybody who has any semblance of faith thinks the exact same things.
Way. So I think that for me is like a hard part of that. And
yeah,
then
for sure.
what I ran across today, and it really, God's been just reminding me lately so much of like grace and not being able to earn like his blessings. And I was watching this thing, and then the Devo I had today, I was like, okay, I'm getting it, because clearly this is back to back. But it was talking about the way that the pastor said it was so good, though. It said grace and entitlement cannot go hand in hand. And so many times when we try to have control and when we try to do everything perfect, we feel now entitled for God to move on our behalf.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, God, didn't I fast? Didn't I pray? Didn't I do all these things right? Why aren't you fill in the blank? He's like, that's entitlement. That's no longer walking out of grace. And I was like, so anyways, I don't know. It doesn't have to like necessarily go with that, but it kind of is in this way of it's that control piece. If I get everything right, then I can control how this scenario is going to come out or how I think it should happen or what God will do something for me now if I get it.
Yeah.
If I get it right.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that's good.
Have you ever had a situation where you didn't trust God and then you saw it all work out?
Dude, I am walking out all the things that I did not see working out. I think that sort of situation happens to everyone who has taken a significant amount of time, and I mean like years, praying for certain things to come to pass, praying for that healing, praying for that breakthrough, praying for things to just improve. And it takes however long it takes. And then when it finally does, you're just like, I mean, I am still like, none of this feels real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm not grateful and not that I don't spend time every day, like acknowledging that and like thanking God for it. But it still just feels like I'm watching it happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
I've told you that before, but it's kind of a strange thing because I feel like sometimes we can look at our faith or our relationship with God and kind of go, yeah, I really want this to come to pass. And it's kind of like what you were saying, like with doubting and stuff. And you're like, oh, but he's actually answering prayers now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's like a mixed feeling of like guilt or just like somehow even disbelief that it's really happening.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he really answered my prayers.
Probably a combination of both.
He really actually was giving a crap about all of those times that I was just sitting there praying, thinking I was talking to the wind sometimes.
Do you remember, and I don't know if you this would have been last January. I remember
a year ago.
Whoa. But it was that kind of specific. And I was driving to a wedding. It was really snowy. And so I was just kind of praying. And then it was like this inside it was like, do you not think that I hear you, Maria? And I was like,
I hate it when that happens.
Well, clearly by the way I've been acting, no. But
Guess my tude says otherwise.
my tude says otherwise. But anyways, yeah. There, I think, or I guess a follow-up question on that is like, what's one of the best unwelcome changes that you've gone through?
Unwelcomed?
Yeah, or it's like where something's happened and it's like, wasn't expecting, like, no, and, well, I guess I kind of have one since I just mentioned that.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I would say even like my car getting stolen.
Yeah.
Like that was, and it's ended up being a huge, minus a car payment now, but outside of that, but an absolute huge blessing. Like the vehicle I'm in is so much more sturdy. There's little things that God has answered in it, of little cries. I remember I was like, the tiniest things, I was like, Lord, if I really love two-toned interior, and I was like, I don't want to be ungrateful. I really don't want to be ungrateful. And if there's a vehicle that's good for me, and that would be good, but I was like, if it could please just have two-toned, that'd be great. And I remember my parents sent me a picture and the interior said gray, and I was like, okay. And then my mom got it. It was sending me a video of it, and I was like, it's two-toned. And so like little things like that where, was it awful not having a vehicle and having your vehicle stolen? Yes, but I was able to.
You had a rental. It was fine.
I had a rental. It was fine. Yeah, but just the way how smooth it went, I was able to take off some debt. Like God,
it's not like she was without a vehicle and taking the bus somewhere.
God literally, He literally worked that situation out for my better.
Yeah.
And so just, I don't know. That was just that's
for
one
sure.
that
Don't ever buy a
happened.
Kia.
Don't ever buy a Kia,
No matter how appealing the tag is.
and how good
The
they're.
price tag.
They got good. What's the word I'm looking for? Warranties.
Yeah,
but
because
they're
you're gonna use it. That's
Yeah.
why.
And your vehicle's probably going to get stolen.
You're gonna
So-
use it if your car doesn't get stolen first. But I think an unwelcome change for me was the lack of change. I just keep thinking about my professional situation. At the end of 2023, it's also, gosh, we hate to talk about, God's timing with things. Because it's always, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting and trust God's timing and stuff. And I wasn't even thinking about like waiting. I just remember being like incredibly frustrated at my previous job and being like, I don't understand why I am still sitting here at this job. I'm not feeling like I'm appreciated. I'm not feeling like I am being utilized, to like my most potential or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so frustrating. I sat in that position for like three years, just spinning my wheels, literally having conversations with my boss from time to time, just being like, I gotta do something else. Or not that I will. And I wasn't like, I want to give up what I'm doing and do something completely different altogether. It was like, no, I want more responsibility. Like, I know that I can like manage people, and I can manage people well. People that have worked under me for any period of time here have had nothing but good things to say about me. Everybody that I work with often says good things about their encounters with me. Attorneys that I work with have often, I don't recall an attorney ever saying anything bad about their encounter with me at my previous job. But those kinds of things, and like just sitting there in that discomfort, and it was very unwelcomed because I was like, oh, something's got to change soon.
Something's got to give.
Like, I'm sitting here and I know that when I tell God, like, Lord, I'm at my wit's end, I am fed up.
Oh my gosh.
When I
can't do this anymore.
When I get to that point in the conversation, I usually know that like God is going to move. He did not move for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Well, he was moving, but he wasn't letting me in on that, of course. Mm-hmm. So I had to sit there and just be frustrated. And it wasn't like I was mad at God or anything. I was just like, I don't understand this.
Right.
I don't get this. I don't get why I'm just sitting here. And it was so frustrating. And then, and then I almost missed the opportunity that was sitting right in front of me. Well, I say almost, but it's like, no, it would have come for me anyway, because If it comes from God, you're not going to miss it. If you try to miss it, it'll
keep
zip its way back around to you. And then I wound up, I think that those 3 years, while they were difficult, they were refining my attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like my attitude was changing. My perspective on work, me trying to view, like I took that time and was like trying to look at my job in a different way all the time. Like, how can I refresh this? How can I think of something different? What is something new that I can research? How can I change this? How can I make this whole process even better?
Well, and me to you, I feel like I noticed, just because I knew you for those 3 years, like how you were at the end of that job was different than how you were a couple of years prior to that.
Yeah.
Like not in a bad, I mean, like you were still a great worker, all those things, but just like the position of your heart, you let adjust. And like that was visible from like as a friend in that kind of way.
Yes. And all of that prepared me for this job.
Mm-hmm.
The difficult employee that I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier. Me prior, had I gotten this job, had my predecessor been ready to retire, 3 years, and I had been given that job, I probably would have gotten in trouble, probably would have gotten fired myself, just because my attitude wasn't right. My heart wasn't right. My perspective, I thought that I was a decent manager, but I needed more refining in that area of like my, of just stretching and growing my character. And then I take over this department and have a difficult, employee, and then
out the gate.
Yeah, out the gate. Day one, I was like, oh, okay, great. But I kind of knew that was going to happen. Like I just had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was ready for it. Like and it's like what you were saying. It was like my whole heart, it's funny because my focus outside of work was all about like my personal life. Like, Lord, when am I going to find my husband? All this stuff. I was so focused on that, like heal my heart. Well, guess what? All that stuff ties together. It's like, while he's refining my heart to prepare me for my husband, he was also refining my heart to just engage with people better.
Yeah.
And just look at things and treat people differently. And like, there were so many times where I was like, man, old Meryl would have really lost her cool in the last 5 minutes of hearing this person talking to me the way that they just talked to me. And my gosh, God bless my predecessor, because she had kind of told me, she and I had lunch, not too long, or it was a little bit after. And we were talking about, she's like, my gosh, my heart goes out to you with that situation. It was always just really difficult. And I was like, yeah, I got my work cut out for me, but I think it'll be okay. And at that time I didn't know that person was going to take on a different position, but it was great. It ended up working out fine. They like what they're doing now, and that's great. I honestly, they just didn't want to be a part of the changes that I was making, and that's fine. That's okay. Yeah, it's totally fine.
Well, and I think a big thing, and you've hit it spot on, is so much like with change, and when we end, like change refines us.
Yeah.
And so like stagnant water gets gross, but water that constantly moves stays fresh.
I have to also, I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Do you?
Yes, that's really good. Water that moves stays fresh. Okay. Sorry, I just had a moment there where that was like hitting me, and I was like ready to say something else to add on to that, which is I was going to make a comment about, like not to toot our horns, but as millennials, I would say we are probably the most adept at change and being able to embrace change. Yeah. We grew up without internet, but we also know what it's like with it. And it's like our whole generation is full of people who like tinker around with technology and play around with stuff until they figure it out. Yeah. Until it works and whatever.
Do you remember our friend Tiago? Shout out to you, Tiago, where we said, what generation would you love to grow up in? And he said ours,
Yeah.
Because he said you guys are literally the last ones to know what it's like to live without internet, and
Yeah.
I would like to see
Yeah.
what that would be like.
And I think that's a beautiful and unique thing about our generation is and so I say all that to say I'm calling out all other millennials. Like, change shouldn't be difficult for you because we grew up in an era where there was so much of that going on. But I think that if you're not used to that sort of thing, that guess what? That's the harsh reality, because that's life. Like, things are always going to change, especially when you least expect it. So it's good to just be open to it and approach it with like, okay, what's something I can learn from this? What's the opportunity here? Like, is this an opportunity for me to learn something new? Is this an opportunity for me to, just do anything anyway? Just got to be open to it.
Should we read? We've got some scripture here.
Real quick.
We're going to go through this.
Zip.
Oh, dang. I put
Zip
a
and
few
zag.
in there. Do you want to go every other on these bad boys?
Oh my gosh, we got a lot here.
Or we can just do a few. Let's just do a few.
Yeah, pick out a few.
Okay. So the first one is Psalm 56, 3-4 says, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in you, in God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me?
Psalm 44, 40:4. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust, who does not turn to the proud, to those who go astray after a lie.
Proverbs 3, 5-6. This one's solid and always good. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths.
That's good.
That's
Isaiah
good.
26, 3-4. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock.
Boom.
Well, there's that.
That's that. Guys.
Okay, are you ready for the outro music?
Because I'm ready.
Here it comes.
Ooh.
Super jazzy.
I
I don't know why I keep saying jazzy to
She's
refer to
just-
great music. I've been friends with you for too long. Every time Maria likes something, she's like, "Oh, that's jazzy. You can jazz it up."
We can jazz it up a bit.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wrong part.
hope you liked this.
Let us know. Give us some comments.
Yeah. Review, comment,
Tell us ways you want to change this year too. If you're
rate us.
all
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah, we want to hear about it. Tell us how your year's going. What things you've committed to change.
Yes.
Or what's changing in your life and you want to talk about it. Just hit us up.
Let us know. All right. We love you guys.
Be safe.
Bye.